Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I love that introduction. It makes me so happy. Charlotte Cheshire, one of our marketing graphic designers, made it, and she's so incredibly talented. It makes me smile every time I look at it. Okay, welcome. It is summertime, and the learning's easy here on the Mediavine Summer of Live. I'm your host, Jenny Guy. How is everyone doing out there? Tell us hi. Is anyone else experiencing a ridiculous heat index and it's not even officially summer yet? That is unacceptable. Also, I'm still not over the fact that it's already month 6 in the year 2022. All of this seems very rude and not okay with me. Calendars and thermometers are both on my bad side today. Okay. Yes. And forgive us for the start time snafu. It is my nightmare every time I travel and I'm in a different time zone when I'm trying to schedule. So thank you for joining us. We're glad you made it. However you made it, despite my best efforts to keep you from getting here, we're glad you made it. So on to the topic at hand. We are following up last week's season opener on traffic growth with another, albeit potentially less direct way that you might think of to grow your traffic, which is email. And I am joined today by Allie Grummert. She is the owner of Duet. She is an email marketing strategist and conversion copywriter who helps bloggers and content creators make a killer first impression through automated welcome and nurture sequences. She helps her clients build intentional email strategies that engage readers, build brand loyalty, and optimize conversions for sales and site traffic. Allie holds the coveted spot as the email marketing industry expert for the Food Blogger Pro membership community, is a recommended expert through NerdPress, and she's been featured on industry podcasts, including the Copywriter Club podcast, System Saved Me, and the Food Blogger Pro podcast. Welcome to the program for the first time.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited. This is my favorite topic.
Yes, that's a good thing. That's a good thing that you do. If you have any questions for Allie, please drop them in the comments and we will get them to her. But I've got some questions for her based on our topic today, which is 3 strategies to boost site traffic with email marketing. So we're still talking about growth. So I want to start just by addressing the elephant in the room, which I have a feeling you've heard once or twice when you've been out there talking about email. And actually, I met Allie at Tastemaker this last year in Chicago. Why is email worth the investment for content creators in terms of time and money? Because to be honest, I don't think that any publisher disagrees with that there is value in principle in email, but email is not a small lift in terms of either time or money. So please sell us on the power of email.
Yeah. So email marketing, it often just falls to the bottom of like all the things that people think of. But what's great about it, and I think why it's supreme over any social platforms, is that it's where you can get in contact with your people, your audience, literally at any moment. So you write up an email and you can send it out to the 200 people on your list, 2,000 people on your list, and there are no algorithms in your way. You can even segment it so the message shows up in front of the right people. Whereas like if you go up on Instagram, your message is going to be seen by whomever based on an algorithm, but then it's also going to show up in front of everyone. So email gives you ways that you can really tailor your message and who you send it to. And you're not hindered by algorithms or people like changing whatever platform is really cool now. So TikTok versus Periscope, RIP. Who knows? It might still be around, but no one's using it. That and then email just is known for having higher conversion rates than you get using social media. And it's a great platform for building relationships. Whether you're a talker like me, my emails get long, but even then, like short emails too, you stay top of mind in people's inboxes.
All great reasons. I love that it's a way to reach your people that is not beholden to anything else. You want to talk to them and it is instantaneous, send, it's there. I know this is a little off script, but I would love to hear maybe some really great results that you've had with some of your customers. You don't have to name names or anything like that, but the way you've seen email change people's businesses.
Oh man, I have a client that I worked with last summer, and then I reconnected with him at the beginning of this year, and he told me the biggest game changer for his business in the last year was investing in email marketing. So we were able to create a welcome sequence and nurture content, which we'll talk about, but his list grew from 3,000 people, and I just checked the other day, it's like 35,000. And now all 35,000 of those people who join his email list are getting 10 emails over the first 2 or 3 months that they're on his list, getting the best content that he has to offer. He's getting all that traffic back to his site. And he's encouraging people to share that content, which, further gets people back to his site, but also grows his list. So that was really encouraging, because I also know that he's somebody who he invests a lot in research, like recipe development, but also like SEO and site stuff and all that. But he still said that email marketing was the best investment.
That's great to hear that that's a great return on investment. So I think that we all are warming to the idea of email, or are already warmed. I would love, well, first off, I want to ask the audience, what is your current email marketing strategy? Let us hear in the comments, what are you doing with email currently? And no shame, there's no shame. We're here to talk about it and get it all out in the open. Like we said in our promo copy for this episode, we've all been snuck up on by the fact that it's already midway through 2022. It is not too late to still reclaim this year and get that to-do list going and get it done. All right. So you've warmed us all over with email. Please introduce us to those 3 strategies that you referenced in the episode title. Are they basically steps 1, 2, and 3, or?
Yeah. So the 3 strategies that I always recommend, even if you can't do them all, would be ongoing live content being sent out to your list. That would be your newsletter, having some sort of welcome sequence and a way to introduce people to you and your content, and then having some sort of ongoing nurture sequence. So that's a way for you to connect people with your older content. Now, if you don't have a lot of time, or you're just getting started, just start by sending out a regular email once a week. And we could get into more detail about how often to send those. But then if you have the bandwidth, like set up a welcome sequence. It can be 1 email. And then from there, with an ongoing nurture sequence, you can just repurpose anything that's evergreen, like content that's not seasonal, to just go out to new subscribers. The reason why I get so excited about this is because somebody joined your list today. They don't know what you sent out last week or 6 months ago. You have an opportunity to present it to them as though it's brand new information. And you didn't just create that blog content for people just to read it once. To the people who were on your email list, people are constantly coming to you looking for solutions. And by you providing that in an automated sequence, that older content gets seen, whether it's recipes or mindset or hacks or tips or tricks or whatever, the things that we often, minimize as being important. It's like, well, I wrote that blog post 2 years ago. And it's like, yeah, but are people still looking for lemon meringue pie? I thought so. Like, give the people what they want.
That's right. And they may not know that they want it yet. So give it a shot. Absolutely. Okay. Actually, before we get into newsletters and those 3 strategies, I want to go ahead and skip ahead a little bit and talk about getting people to subscribe. So Kathy asked us, any tips for those of us who just started a subscriber list on how to get more people to sign up? She's thinking about running a contest to get subscribers.
Yeah, a contest is one way to do it. You can also simply include, I do this in every 3 emails I send out, just asking people who are currently on my list to forward that email along to someone else. So people might love to do that if they love your content and know someone else that would benefit from it. I think definitely having opt-ins on your site, linking to landing pages from your social media. You can simply ask people to sign up for your newsletter. You can also provide incentives. So it could be like a freebie PDF or a cheat sheet, something of like that would kind of give them more gusto for signing up. Like, heck yeah, I want that thing, versus just signing up for newsletter updates. So that's one way to do it. A handful of ways. Another 2 that I've heard is like just cross promoting on other people's platforms. So I've done this where I'll do like a list swap. So I will go talk with like another business owner who does nothing with email, and I'll say, can I write an email to your list? And so at the end of that, I include an opt-in for them to join my website, like my email list, if they're interested. It's a way to kind of share other people's audiences, but also get new faces on your content.
Grow your own audience with people who have similar content or people that might be interested. I love that idea. All right. I've got to bring up, we had somebody, Kathy was asking, let's talk about Grow. There are some excellent tools in the Grow toolkit that are really making a difference in terms of subscribers. For instance, Spotlight Subscribe that we use on the Mediavine corporate blog has made a huge difference. So I'd love to hear your experience with working with our free tool.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful tool. And so when people are scrolling, it appears. If you keep scrolling, it just silently disappears. So you're not getting hit with a pop-up, but it kind of serves like that where it gets people's attention. I personally don't love pop-ups just from a branding perspective. Like, that's not who I am. I'm not like somebody who just goes and screams in people's faces and says, "Come look at me." And in some cases that's helpful. And I know that that gets a lot of conversions. But I like that the subscriber box pops up gently, reminds people like, hey, I'm here if you want more information. And then you can connect that with really any email service platform. I'm not sure what all the integrations are right now, but I know I was setting up Zapier with a client who was using an email platform. And so we made sure that all those new subscribers also got immediately dropped into her new subscriber welcome sequence.
Yes, currently there is a direct integration with ConvertKit that just launched about a week ago. So that is available, but we are working on other ones. MailerLite and Mailchimp, I believe, are on the next round and the next wave. And then until that time, there's Zapier easily can port those new subscribers over. But yes, like Allie was saying, Spotlight Subscribe is a really elegant way to draw focus to your opt-in without having to have somebody X out of it. Another great thing that we are working on that we're seeing huge results. I don't know if Nicole Johnson, our strategic VP, is out there, but she is using exclusive content, which is a way of restricting some of your content, putting it behind just where all they have to do is provide their email and say they consent to being served personalized ads. So your email has that dual focus. One, all of the amazing things that Allie's been talking about. And two, it can also be a very key part of your first party data strategy moving forward with cookies going away. So double dip on that email. All right. So it is no surprise when you first mentioned, Allie, your first aspect. So it kind of sounded like it's more of a growing strategy. You start out with number one, that you're starting out with newsletters. So that's the base, and that's not surprising. So give us the lowdown. What goes in them? How often are we sending them? We want the works.
Yeah, so your newsletter should have your newest content. So this is when you share like your new recipes, your new blog content, any sort of campaigns that you might be putting on. So if you're going to be launching something, you do it in these one-off emails that you send to your list. But if you're going to do it regularly, I'd recommend just picking a day of the week that you plan to write it. And or send it. I don't typically recommend sitting down, generating an idea, writing it all out, grabbing all the photos you need or graphics, putting it into your email platform and sending it all out in the same day. That sounds exhausting, and it's way too much for really anybody to like really do well without stressing out. So as much as you can, like plan out your content somewhat in advance. I only plan mine out probably 6 weeks in advance. Like you don't need to go plan your whole year. Just know like this is the content that I'm going to be sending out. Within the email itself, images are okay. I mean, you don't want to like pack it full like we see with like Target and those kind of like e-com ads. It's like entirely images. Like that's not really recommended. But yeah, include a blurb about what's on the blog post, what's on that page that you're asking them to click through to. And just remember that the subject line is meant to get people to open. And then once you're in the email, you can ask them to do something else, whether it's reply back to you, click through to the content, join a wait list, click a link, anything.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Will you give us a little bit more? Because I know that everyone, I don't think that there's anyone out there who doesn't struggle a little bit with writing email subject lines. So give us your best tips on that.
Yeah, I think my first tip is to say, don't make it about you, make it about the reader. Like, what are they getting out of it? And so instead of saying, I've got a new post, okay, like, good for you, but what's that going to do for Sally in Utah? Like, okay, so Sally, here's, what is it? You could say, do you know what you're making for Father's Day? Or have you made, Easter brunch plans yet? Like, asking questions is good. Using the word you is really helpful, even if you end up taking it out, but phrasing it where you could use the word you. People like things that are about themselves, so give that to them. For instance, like I host a monthly roundtable, and it's so hard not to be like, here, let me come tell you these things. And it's like, no, we have to make it more about the topics. Like, this is what you'll get to do. Like, you get to learn how to sell with email, or you get to pick out a platform that feels good for you. And that takes practice. Like when I'm writing a subject line, I'll write out like 15. And it just kind of evolves with each one that you write. So don't feel like you have to nail it on the first try. Other things, like don't be afraid to play around with emojis. Those are kind of fun. And then I always like to write in sentence case. So capital letter first, but you're not writing like a headline where every word needs to start with a capital letter. Remember when we used to like just email friends, right? Like you wouldn't write the subject line with a capital letter with each one. It's just like, hey, how are you doing? With a question mark. And it looks like something you would write to a friend.
I like that. Trying to get that friend feel and that friend conversation happening rather than marketing email. I like that.
Right.
I like that a lot.
And I would say like
that way.
Yeah, and there's something to be said too for like let the subject line explain what's in the blog post or like in the email just a little bit. Like you don't have to give away the farm, but like it doesn't have to be super vague. I know some people really like that. I'm not like that. I want to know at least a little bit of what I'm clicking through to read more about. So instead of just say open up here, it's like, okay.
For what? Why would I
what?
Give
me
you know.
Yeah.
So in terms of content, so do you think one new blog post is enough to do an email for? Are you doing more? Are you listing more than one blog post? Are you theming them?
Yeah. Okay. So there are a handful of different ways you can do it. I recommend just kind of figuring out a couple platforms that work for your content and stick with them. By platforms, I mean like format of the email. So you could just do a blog feature. It could be a video feature, and then that's the one thing that's in that email. I know that performs really well for that client I mentioned whose list grew significantly. That's all he does once a week, just sending out the new recipe, and it gets really great traction. Another would be some sort of roundup. You could do it like a theme, like here are a bunch of appetizers or entrees using chicken. It could also be like, here's a menu. So like, here's your appetizer, here's your entree, here's your dessert. Enjoy this meal this weekend, something like that. So kind of figure out those kind of themes. I recommend even the type of content that you share, though, from week to week. We want to make sure that people get a holistic understanding of the kind of content that you have. And while you might not be able to plan this out as distinctly with like new recipes or new content, think about the different pillars of content that you do have on your site and how you can integrate those on a regular basis. So if you're always sharing about entrees, people might forget that you have desserts. So also share about desserts. So pick like 4 or 5 different themes and just make sure you rotate them so people get a really clear understanding of the breadth of what content you provide.
Fantastic. Okay. Now, so we're gonna add on, if all you've got time for, and you recommend, before we move on, you want weekly cadence as your recommendation for emails?
Yeah. Yep. Part of it too is as the creator, we tend to say, oh, if I email them once a month, it has to be this huge thing. I just want you to get over that mindset that you feel like it has to be like this mega newsletter, like that you've crafted with so much care. Part of it is like your readers, they don't have a lot of time necessarily to open up all 15 links that you've shared. So it's okay if you think about it, like you're sending them one recipe and they're going to click through and look at one recipe. It makes the decision factors on their end a lot easier to just click through versus having to pick which ones they click through to. The other big thing, pick a day of the week that you send it out. That'll be super helpful as you set up automations. You can just say all those automations can go out any day except for Mondays. And that way, you're not going to overlap with your newsletter.
All right. Speaking of automations, let's go to our next level of adding something on to those, just the general email send. So welcome sequence or sequences. Why is having them so important? How many emails should it be? How long will it take to put together? Tell us.
Yeah. So some people lump a welcome sequence in with a nurture sequence. I like to separate it out. For me, I think about it as like a really specific campaign of emails, that the whole purpose of this is that no matter where someone comes into your email list, they get a clear introduction to who you are, the kind of content they can expect. And this is a time when you get to share your story. Like, how did you get here? what problems were you trying to solve for yourself or other people that now you've created a blog? So whether it's like DIY stuff or it's cooking or it's gluten-free recipes, like what was the struggle in your life that made you start this? People are going to build that know, like, and trust factor because they're like, oh yeah, that's me too. And I'm so grateful that you have this website. It also allows people who aren't a good fit just to peace out. They can unsubscribe. But it allows you to like keep a really healthy list because they know what they're going to get. And if they want it, they'll stick around. If not, they'll peace out. Yeah. So this is like where you really get to identify like, hey, reader, if this is what you're looking for, you're in the right place. I like to phrase it like that because then
I love that.
They'll just know. And also, for you as a creator, it's a really great exercise in branding. Like if I had to speak to the people coming here for my diet class, weight loss class, and these other recipes and my cookbook, what is my sole like core brand? Because that has to be like, it's you. But even though they're coming from different places, how do you introduce yourself to people so they get a really good understanding of kind of the scope of work that you do?
What they can expect from you, who you are. And also, like you said, that's a great way to have to define it, to make yourself be intentional about those things if you're having to spell it out in the welcome sequence. Right. So go back to the know, like, and trust. I want you to talk a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah, know, like, and trust is like, I don't know, the holy grail of online marketing, right? Because people aren't going to know you from someone else until you introduce yourself. It's just like any like networking event, you shake your hand. And I always like to ask people like, who makes up your community? That's one of the questions I like to ask people. A lot of times you'll ask, what do you do for work? Or do you have any kids? Things like that. We want to know people. And then part of that too is like, okay, so what sets you apart? How do I don't know. It could be your personality. And if that's what sets you apart and that's what keeps people coming back to your website, like let your personality out. I use a lot of GIFs. It's like a bad habit. It's like a core part of my personality now. I'll even make custom GIFs to drop into emails.
Oh my gosh. And you say GIFs. You don't say GIFs, Allie.
Is that wrong? I've always said
that is a core argument amongst Mediavine OG people are GIFs versus GIFs.
Oh yeah.
That's all right.
I'm
all right.
GIF always.
GIF is like your peanut butter, Allie.
But I love peanut butter.
It is
which
good.
just reminds me of the thing that I love.
Fair.
Okay. So yeah, I like add in GIFs. I'll use kind of sassy language. I like have conversations with myself in the email.
Okay.
But if you're more like really wanting to get across that this is a gentle place, like if you're new to vegan eating, that's okay. I'm going to show you how, right? Like that is going to like give you much better vibes from someone than just cold hard recipes too. Like how can you share parts of your personality? And I'm not saying that you need to go be someone that you're not. Like if you're not a GIF person, don't force it. I know I've had people probably unsubscribe because they're like, she went a little hard on the GIFs this time. And I'm like, well, I laughed the whole time I sent this. So my people are going to love it.
There you go. And they don't have to, they're not going to say GIFs to them. You're going to say GIF. Anyway. Okay. Well, Max had a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
No. Wait, do you want to?
I already forgot what I was going to say, Jenny. Go for it.
Oh, no. I blew it. Max, we'll get to your question. We'll come back to your thought, Allie. Okay. So how would you recommend wording the one sentence blurb on Grow if you plan to do a monthly newsletter along with a short welcome sequence? Right now, I'm just doing a monthly letter and everyone on my list has signed up for that. But I'd like to implement a welcome sequence and eventually shift to weekly, but I don't know how to create that shift for their current subs. I believe you're talking about the text in the Spotlight subscribe widget that pops forward. Yeah, I believe that's what he's doing.
Yeah, part of it, and I've actually noticed this recently when I audited a client's email system, that she got like really specific of like when they were going to hear from her, like at the site of opt-in. And I think that kind of adds some hindrance to her feeling like she could shift anything. You get to pick when you send your content. Like you can always ask them for their preferences. So you can email your list and say, hey, I'm going to start sending a weekly email. If you only want it once a month, just click here and I'll send you the monthly digest. Like you can give them options if that would make you feel comfortable. Otherwise, part of it is just keeping them in the loop, saying like, hey, I've decided that I'm going to make this a more regular thing. I'm getting excited about like new recipes or whatever content it is you're creating. And so when we start sending those out weekly, I'm excited to show up in your inbox. Like just communicate that that's what's going to happen.
I think that the only reason you would need to be super specific in that opening text is if you were promising them something for it, like
Yes.
a freebie, and then you would need to tell them, yes, you are good. But I think that people do expect you to reach out to them if they sign up for something, and if they don't want it, then they'll stop.
Right. And so I guess what I'm saying is you could just promise them new content. Like if it's not that, if it's a freebie or a resource, then you're going to deliver that. But as soon as they get that, like Jenny said, like they should expect to continue to hear from you. That's why they're clicking subscribe in the first place.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So welcome sequence. We're talking about who you are. This is your chance to introduce yourself, your body of content, what they can expect from you. And we're getting into that trust. So
yes.
How many emails does it take to do that? Should it take to do that for a welcome sequence?
Also, I remembered what I was going to say before.
Oh, fantastic.
Real quick. Know, like, and trust is also why people will buy from you, or they'll trust you and they'll keep opening your opening your emails, clicking through to your site and buy from you if you have something to sell. And scene. Now back to your question. Welcome sequences. I have a blog post that's all about just like if you have time to write one welcome email, great. If you have time to write 3 to 5, awesome. Mine that I write for clients are around the 3 to 5 mark. That's usually because there's more. They've been blogging 5, 10, 15 years. There's just more to explain. But if you're writing a 1 email welcome sequence, it's speak directly to your reader first. Hey, you. I see that you probably came here looking for this. I'm so glad that we connected because I have lots of that. My name is Allie. I've been blogging since 2016. I'm excited to share with you the things that I've learned. If you have any questions about who I am, or click here to, go to my about page, you can ask them to reply. One of the things is connect them with your core resource. So even if they've signed up for it, like I have a resource actually called Your First Welcome Sequence, but it's like, I want to make sure that's included in my welcome sequence because if people came in from another place, they might not know what's there. And you're just doing them favors. You're like, I have free things. Would you like some free things? And people are going to love you for it. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy long, but include a photo of yourself, preferably looking at the camera, eye contact. People like it. And then ask them to reply back. That's usually a good way to engage. And it also tells your email provider that that this is an active, non-spammy account. If people are replying back to you, they're like, oh, this person's legit.
A real live person. All right.
A real live person. And then if you're going to do longer ones, that's where you'd share things like core parts of your brand and where people can connect with you. So like I have some clients, they have an entire email just saying, hey, follow me on Instagram. This is what you'll get. Others, they're promoting a wait list for their annual program that they open up. So we're just directing people there. So it's like, think about like, what are the things that you want to make sure everybody knows about? And then the idea is at the end of a welcome sequence, you could always pivot towards a funnel. Like if you want to start promoting content around a specific idea. But for the most part, I recommend them going into an ongoing nurture sequence, which is just a broad collection of content that you have, products that you have, affiliates that you like, but they aren't necessarily as pressing as maybe those first 5 emails might include.
Fantastic. All right. Okay. For the third strategy, nurture sequence. Tell us what is a nurturing sequence and why we need one.
Yeah. So this is where you get to send people to your older content, right? So the older recipes that people love, maybe they're the ones that get a lot of traffic. Maybe they're the ones that you love. It's personal favorites. And it also helps tie in your story. Like, this was something that my grandma taught me, or this is a, core part of my story and I want to share it with you. But this is where you get to nurture them week by week. So whereas the welcome sequence would go out over the course of anywhere from 3 to 6 days, the nurture sequence spreads it out a little bit more. And so I usually pick 1 day of the week for the nurture sequence to go out. And I'm also allowing the subscribers to get the new content as well. So they're actually getting emails from you twice a week. If you feel weird about that, that's okay. You can just wait until they're done with the nurture sequence before they start getting your new content. But this is where your roundups could be for my Mediterranean recipes or all of my homemade dressings. So you can link to a bunch of different things in there. What's great about the nurture sequence is you're not really looking at conversions so much. You're just sharing darn helpful stuff that they're going to love. And within those 10 emails or so, you can link to your cookbook, you can link to your ebook, you can link to your Amazon shop and tell them like, you can't link directly to Amazon items, but to your storefront you can, and say, check out my storefront on, cleaning tools, and you'll see everything that I recommend, right? So you're able to send consistent traffic back to these things that are important to your brand. It's important that they know you have a cookbook or an ebook so that when it goes on sale, they're not like, I didn't know she had a cookbook. Or if you get revenue from affiliate revenue, like link them back to those high performing blog posts where you talk about the Instant Pot or lunch boxes or whatnot. And you don't have to get weird about it. You don't have to be like, go buy these things. It's just like, this is a helpful blog post that I created. But strategically, that's also somewhere that you get more return on, affiliate revenue from those visits.
So in terms of sequencing, we're doing, so they're signing up, they're immediately getting the welcome series of 3 to 1, 3, 5, somewhere in there, 1 to 5. Yeah. And that's going out 1 a week usually for the first, or you're doing them within a couple of weeks.
Those are the welcome sequence is actually going out within like 6 or 7 days, all of those emails.
Okay.
So you can send them at a little quicker cadence, because you also don't want to just send one email and expect that they'll remember who you are a week later. You get to really build off of that excitement. I heard it said once, like, no one's as excited about your brand as when they just signed up for your free thing.
It's true. It's very true.
Just maintain that momentum, introduce yourself. And then you can tell them at the end of the welcome sequence, like, and now you'll hear from me on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Reply back anytime.
Love that. And you're shifting to then after that, immediately the nurture sequence is kicking in, and the nurture sequence is something that you're adjusting and sending supplementary to your weekly newsletter.
Yes.
Got it. All right. Yep. Okay. So you told us a whole lot about what we should do. Let's talk about what shouldn't we do. I would love to hear from all of the experience that you've had, some of your insight about where bloggers might be spinning their wheels in terms of email.
Yeah. So most of it is mindset, believe it or not. One of my first emails that I sent out to my list was like, actually it was speckled with like Mr. Rogers GIFs. I was like, you can do it. People care about you and they want to know what you have to say. And it's true. We get really hung up on like, well, people don't want to hear from me, or they might think it's spam, or it's not that valuable. Like, cut that out. They're on your list for a reason. Email them. They know where the unsubscribe button is, or you can tell them if you want, but you have valuable content that you've worked really hard to create, and they have said that they want to hear from you when that content is available. So part of it is just getting over the fear that like people don't want to hear from you, or that your content's not valuable. You can always ask your list too, what would make this more valuable? Like, they're real people. They might reply if they feel comfortable, but yeah, you're not bothering people by sending them an email.
And like you said, they don't have to. They don't have to take it. Like, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other big thing is just that marketing is all about testing. Like, you're never going to hit it out of the ballpark on your first try. Like, I had 1 or 2 opt-ins that I created that, like, I still don't really love them. But at the time I was like, that's the best I could come up with to be able to promote for people to get on my list. And now I've come up with other ones that I feel like are much more aligned with my audience. Great. It took me a while. So let yourself relieve yourself of that stress. You don't have to nail the opt-in on the first try. You don't have to nail the landing page on the first try, the subject line, anything. And so just know that like you can't tweak things unless you actually have been doing them and know what to change. Like, you don't have any data to go off of. So one of the first things I tell people is like, just start sending emails. And don't look at the data, honestly. Like, give yourself 6 months. Just get used to sending emails and sharing in your voice, and sharing content, testing out different formats. And then after a while, you can go back and look and see what worked. But if you're that person who clicks and you're like, my mom unsubscribed, and then you're going to go cry yourself into a hole, that's going to get you down. And we don't want that either, because I don't want stuff like that keeping you from sharing your message with the world.
Also, Mom, that was cold. Come on.
That was a terrible example.
Mom.
Should have been someone else.
Come on, Mom. Mom's the one that's always going to be on the list. She loves my opt-ins. Okay.
Let it be your neighbor. Your neighbor unsubscribed.
Your neighbor Deborah, she unsubscribed. It's okay. She'll come back. You just have to get more firm in your voice and your freebie offerings. It's all right. Yeah. Deborah will come back. Okay. So adjusting that mindset and in order to gather the data, to do the testing, you actually have to put yourself out there and do it. So
Yeah.
I also think maybe we can get so attached to the number of subscribers that everything can feel very crucial and very precious. And as you've said so many times through this, which I absolutely love, like if they're your people, they're your people. They're going to respond to the things that you want to talk about. That's who your email list are. These are your customers. These are your super fans. They're not just the person that's popping to you for that lemon meringue pie recipe. They're the person that wants to hear about your grandma's journey to the perfect dressing. Like that's who these people are. So make them your people and be less afraid.
Absolutely.
All right. Love that. Okay. Well, we have already reached the end of our time together, which is a sad phase. But as we always do, I want to close out with some action items. I've got to make a couple of quick announcements, but I would love to hear a couple of action items for people who have not yet really dove into the email marketing pool. And then maybe a couple who already are involved in some form of email marketing. What can they walk away and do? And then Allie has a ton of really great freebies that she's sharing with us that we're going to put in our one cheater that we always send out at the end. So I would love for her to tell us what she's showing us. So give me 1 second. Guys, next week, our next episode is Tuesday, June 21st. It will be at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. I can promise that because I'm actually in my regular time zone. So that will happen. We have Shweta Garg of Masala and Chai. She's coming by to give us 5 tips for blogging and working full time, balancing those two really important aspects of your life and not feeling completely empty or like you're failing in both places. So we are so excited to have Shweta next week. Allie, this has been wonderful. We are excited to jump out and give even more of our effort to email marketing or to get started with it. So give us those tips if you don't mind, please.
Yeah. If you are new to sending out emails, I recommend just signing up for an email service platform. There are some free ones. MailerLite is one. ConvertKit has a free plan that just allows you to gather subscribers and email them. So just start sending emails. I would add write weekly email to your calendar every week. Let it be a recurring task. I do have a content calendar, which Jenny's going to share, which will help you kind of plot out what are the next 6 emails so that it's one less thing to think about when you sit down to actually write, and just start sending emails. Don't look at the stats. Just share what you've got to share. And then for those who've been doing it for a while, I would start thinking about what you could include or improve about your welcome sequence. That's another one of the freebies that I have, where I've got a bunch of different prompts of what those emails or singular email could include. And then I would recommend make a list of 5 to 10 things, whether it's blog posts, content, affiliates that you love. What are things that you want to make sure everybody on your list knows about? And I think that that'll get your wheels spinning on what could be included in a welcome or nurture sequence.
Love all of that. This has been so helpful, Allie. Thank you, Allie of Duet. We are going to drop that one cheater into the comments so you guys can have all of those links in one easy place. If you have not already subscribed to the Mediavine YouTube and liked our Facebook page, please do. Then no matter what time I schedule something for, you'll make sure it's the right time because Facebook will keep this all honest. So, Allie, thank you so much for being with us today. Everyone else, we will see you next week with Shweta. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.